The dream of every speaker is to be successful. So successful that you get invited to speak in big spaces and big forums like TED, for example. I, for one, have been lucky enough to be invited to speak at Harvard University in Boston, at the UN Center in New York, in Washington, D.C., in spaces like the European Parliament and the Commission, and the League of Black Women Conference in Florida, just to name a few. And of course, in 2014, I had an invite to deliver a talk at TED. And if you haven't listened to my TED Talk, it is on YouTube. You can Google and listen to it. It's called Shit Happens, Clean It Up and Move On. So to come back to the question, how do you get invited to speak in this forum? Many people who have watched my TED Talk have come back to me with many questions and many positive feedbacks, and many positive feedback for which I'm very, very thankful. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, how did you get there? How can I get there myself? Well, it is simple and tricky at the same time, but doable. There are many ways on how to get there. However, in this video, I'm just going to give you 6 of them, 6 that have been extremely helpful for me. So, hello and welcome. My name is Beatrice Achaleke. I am the founder of the Globuntu Mindset System. So, to answer the question, how do you get to big forums as a speaker? Point number 1 is you have to stand out. Stand out in who you are. Stand out in what you say. Stand out in how you build your story. And how do you stand out? By knowing exactly about your identity, your heritage, your background. We African women or Black women, we have a very, very rich and powerful heritage that we sometimes quite ignore. So if you will tap into that heritage and build it into your story, it makes you stand out. Believe me, if you're going to go on stage and compete with people who are more authentic, let's say, for example, when I used to live in Austria, one of the things that made me really stand out and get invited to speak is not because I could speak the language that everyone else is speaking, but because I built my background, I built my African heritage into the speaking engagement that I got given the chance to do, into the stories that I got invited to tell. So that made me really, really stand out. When you stand out, you don't fit into every shoes. Not everyone may like you, but you're authentic in the way you deliver, and the way you deliver, the authenticity is what captivates your audience. So that is something that will make people recommend you. That is what will make people come back to you. That is what will make people say, oh, wow, she's extremely good, because you tell them the stories that they don't know. And how do you do that? You tap into the background that you bring as a Black woman, as an African woman. Okay, that's point number 1. When you stand out, it means you have an extraordinary way of telling your story. In other words, you have to have an extraordinary story. So when you tap into those backgrounds that I just mentioned to you, your story already has the best ingredients to being an extraordinary one. When I got invited to speak at TED in 2014, it was not because of my diversity background, not because of the expertise that I have acquired in the area of intercultural communication, in the area of integration and immigrants, integration of immigrants in Europe. No, many people are doing that conversation already. Many people are telling that story. What made them invite me was the fact that I had taken the risk. I say risk, yes, because that's how many people saw it. The risk of tapping into my background, which is that of Ubuntu. So the TED team got interested in the concept of Ubuntu. That's how I got invited to speak at TED, to speak about Ubuntu and Globuntu, which is my personal concept. Okay. So if you stand out, which is number 1, you have an outstanding story to tell. And talking about outstanding stories, I'd like to give you another example. You know, in Europe, when I lived in Austria, I had the chance to speak in these spaces. And I noticed that whenever we talked about migration and immigrant issues, quite often the answers are already there. The European Parliament, the European Commission, and the forums that we spoke to, they already had pre-prepared answers to everything that we would say. But when in 2014, in 2007, I came up with a concept of Black European women, which was, mind you, very irritating for many Black women who thought that we should be saying we are African women. When I came up with that concept, it gave us a lot of space. We could conquer a lot of space just using that concept of Black European women. When we went to speak in the parliament, and when we stood up to say from the perspective of a Black European woman, it was very, very new in that space. So people tend to listen to us. People tend to say, wait a minute, what are they saying? What is the perspective of a Black woman? So that really made us the story that we were going to tell, the stories that we were telling stand out. It helped us to position our cause in a very, very decisive way at a very, very decisive moment. So you have to stand out. You have to have an extraordinary story that really goes beyond the ordinary. Okay. When you have that, you have to deliver and deliver. So how do you deliver? You deliver by going to spaces where no one expects you to be. You deliver by going an extra mile in terms of how you tell your story. Build in elements of your culture, build in elements of your tradition, build in elements of your identity. That is what will make the way you deliver your story stand out compared to other people. You know, I used to use quite a lot of PowerPoint. I learned how to use PowerPoint while I was in Europe. But I noticed that almost everyone uses PowerPoint or Prezi or those kind of presentations. And I had to come back to my culture, which is a storytelling one. In Africa, in my family in Cameroon, we told stories. And that's how our ancestors, our parents learned. That was how the method that they used to transmit stories, culture, history, and everything that needed to be taught to the younger generation. This is the way that we interacted. So becoming a storyteller gave me a more visible way of delivering what I needed to deliver. Okay, so delivering your story and delivering it well, in a proper way, well packaged, can really enable you to gain that visibility. It will enable someone to listen to you and say, wow. And when they say wow, they are likely going to recommend you. When people start recommending you, that's when people start recommending you, that is when you get speaking gigs. That is when bigger organizations and forums and spaces come up to you to invite you to speak. You never know who is in the space where you're delivering. It doesn't matter how small the space is. You just have to deliver the best that you can, because you never know who is going to recommend you, who is going to leave that space and go recommend you to someone who will then come back to you to invite you for your big stage. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is, when you stand out, you have an extraordinary story to tell, and you know how to deliver in an authentic way. The 4th one is, you have to use the I am because you are factor. That's the Ubuntu philosophy that is part of our African legacy. I am because you are. It means building relationships, connecting with people, building powerful networks, attracting the right people in your space. When you attract the right people in your space who know how good you can deliver and who know how extraordinary your story is and how you stand out with that story, they're definitely going to connect with you. They're definitely going to resonate. They will click in and they will talk about you. They will help you get gigs. Now, when you connect with them, you have to really tell them what is it that you need. Be very transparent with them. Tell them openly, I need speaking gigs. I need you to recommend me. Can you recommend me to someone? Make sure you have your speaker sheet. A speaker sheet is extremely key. This is what you will give to someone who, something that you can easily email to someone, you can easily send to someone at any one moment to enable them to know, to understand exactly what stories you're going to be telling, how you tell it, and why your story is the story that should go on a big stage. Okay? So when you can build those kind of relationships, you're already way into getting bigger speaking engagements. The next thing you have to do is take chances, be proactive. Nowadays, we have a lot of mediums where you can make yourself and your story heard. You can use social media. YouTube, for example, you can broadcast yourself here and tell your story. You can build a community that will support you. Tell your community that you need support. You can have a blog. You can go on Facebook. But you can also network in spaces where you are invited, or whether you're speaking or just attending. make sure you go there. Being proactive means making sure that you go ahead of time, be on time, be there before anyone else. And before you get there, look at the list of people who are invited to speak and pick out 1 or 2 or even 3 people that you would like to connect with during during the time that you're in that space, and make sure you really connect with them. One of the best way of being proactive is finding out, researching on who they are, and sending them an email ahead of time, telling them that you like to engage with them while you are in that space. It will make them create time to meet you. It makes them happy. Listen, when I'm going to somewhere and someone writes to me and say, I see you're speaking at this space, I really like to connect with you while you're there. I set this person as a priority. I know this is someone who really wants to engage with me, who takes the time to reach out to me. So proactivity can be in many ways, but that is one of the key ways on how you engage and build relationships. Okay, so number six is using the moment. Using the moment. What do I mean by using the moment? It means when you are in the space, when you get invited in a space, make sure you connect, make sure you stand out, make sure you make yourself seen. You know, we Black women, we are visible. We can be also invisible in many ways when we are there and we don't talk. So if you're in that space and you want to utilize the moment, make sure that you really reach out to the people that you want to reach. Make sure that you position your story well. Make sure that before you even get there, you prepare yourself. You prepare yourself well in terms of what are you going to say to whom. You may even say, take 10 minutes to speak to someone. And while you're speaking to someone and the next person runs by that you like to speak to, don't let the person you're speaking to in that moment notice that you get distracted. Okay, if you get distracted and you don't finish your conversation with them and you move to the next person may think that you may not have the time for you because they probably have noticed that you left someone standing there, and the person that you left standing there may never come back to you, and you may never really know what you're missing out if you fail to take that conversation to the end. It is enough if you speak to 2 or 3 people at a conference and take the time to really get to know them, to position your topic the way you want, in a way that you can return back and connect back to them. If you're going to collect business cards and then return back home and not even know to whom the business cards belong, they can't serve you, they can't take you to any big forum where you can do a speaking engagement. Okay. So I can tell you much more about how to get into those spaces in order to speak and be successful as a speaker. If you are interested in knowing that, you can inbox me. You can also like this video and share it to people whom you think will be interesting for them as well. Remember, sharing takes you just a mouse click, and it can really change someone's life if you share this information. Thank you very much, and always bear in mind, be proactive, and remember that I am because you are. That is our African philosophy by which I work, and that is the basis of the Globunto philosophy. Thank you very much for listening to me, and watch out for the next videos. Thank you. I wish that you have the best speaking gigs that you desire for yourself.